What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader, and it's time to put together a list of recent sales of CGC-graded Star Wars key issue comic books. Haven't done one of these in a little while where it's focused only on Star Wars books. And in general, prices have come down, as we've talked about, and there's like the have-nots and the haves, right? Some of the big books are still holding their value pretty well, but in general, no matter what the book is, it seems like prices are coming down. Modern books have really been hit hard, and now's a pretty good time to pick up some of those modern books if you're into those. And I just thought I would put together some recent sales. And as you can tell by this thumbnail, it's a little weird, right? This thumbnail is a little weird. It's got a dollar bill being shattered with my logo coming out of it. And that's probably what's going to happen if you buy any comic books right now. your value is going to go down, and it's okay. I mean, it just depends on what you like, but and whether you're willing to take that risk. For me, I think now's a pretty good time to pick up some of those quote-unquote holy grail books with prices way down versus their highs, 50, 60, 70% less than where they were trading at this time last year. And while that was certainly a bubble, some of the prices are back to below pre-COVID levels, and that makes it pretty attractive from my perspective when you look at the price charts. And that's what I really look at. I look at the price charts and just try to make an educated decision when I pick up a big book. So let's dig in. So the first one we got is Star Wars number 4. This is not like a key issue in terms of first appearances. Obviously, Star Wars 1 and 2 are the big ones, but Star Wars 4 has got a great cover. I always love this cover. It's obviously the continuing adaptation of A New Hope, and it's got the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi, so it's got a couple things going for it, but it's not nearly as expensive as Star Wars 1, 2. I haven't looked at the sales prices for 3, but 4, I would actually argue that the cover of 4 is better than 1 or 2, but it's just, it's not a key issue in terms of first appearances, so that keeps the price low. But still, it's got a black cover, fairly difficult to get in a 9.8 grade. This one sold at an auction on July 16th for $480, so pretty good price on that one. Here was a 9.6 for the exact same book. That one sold for $225 in a straight buy it now situation. So that gives you the idea of the difference in price. This one looked pretty good. I mean, it's a 9.6 grade versus the 9.8 grade. So where you can't afford a 9.8 grade, but you collect graded comic books, look at the 9.6s. And I've got some other examples like that as we go through these of really nice 9.6s where it'll allow you to kind of stay within budget maybe if 9.8s are too expensive for you. But that's a pretty significant price drop going from $480 to $225 for a 9.8 down to a 9.6. Next up, a couple of different newsstand editions of Star Wars number 42 sold. Obviously, the first appearance of Boba Fett and Yoda, and this is the newsstand edition as it's now labeled by CGC on the label right there in the middle there, newsstand edition, and it's got the barcode in the lower left. The photos were not great on these. I was kind of tempted by them. This seller is a pretty trusted seller, Krusty Krab Comic Shop. I've looked at a number of their items, and they sell pretty regularly on eBay. But in general, I just felt like there weren't enough photos for me to make an educated decision on it. But this one sold for $20.25 in an auction, and then the same seller had a second copy that sold for $25.50. He also had a third copy that was a best offer accepted for about $2,500. So that gives you a rough idea. You got to remember, like during the Book of Boba Fett, this was going for $5,500. So the price is less than half of where it was back in January of last year when the Book of Boba Fett was hot and heavy. So anyway, just, if you want to have a newsstand of Star Wars 42, I don't have one. I've got the direct, but the newsstand has really come down in price. $2,000 to $2,500 is the price range. Likewise with Star Wars number 81, the Return of Boba Fett. This one had a little bit of an overwrap, as you can see there on the left-hand side. So it's kind of an overwrap from the back to the front. And it was also a CGC 9.6 versus the 9.8. This one sold for $150. Now, I have seen 9.8s sell for $175 fairly recently. So, in my opinion, this is actually an overpay. Although it was only $150, you can now get a 9.8 for, believe it or not, for around $175 to maybe $200. It's just a dead book right now, and it's a great cover. It's one I've got in my collection. I paid a lot more for mine, believe me. I bought mine kind of during the height of the comic book boom. Luckily, I didn't spend too much on big comic books during the boom. I was just kind of freaked out by it. But this is one of the more expensive ones I did pick up during the comic book boom times. And so it's really dropped in value. Now's a pretty good time to look for it. But I think if you're going to get a 9.6 like this one, you can probably get it for closer to 100 to 125. 150 is maybe a slight overpay for that one. Next up, Clone Wars #1 in a 9.8. First, Ahsoka and Captain Rex. This book has come back down to earth a little bit. I bought mine in December of last year for about $1,600. It jumped all the way up to about $2,400, $2,500. And this one just sold here on the 16th of July for $1,950. So it started to come back down as I predicted. I told you that, hey, don't buy this book right now at $2,500. It's going to come back down. And this one did sell for $1,950. Fairly recent grade as well. With a certification number in the high 3s. So it's fairly recent, probably 2021 graded. Looked to be really clean. So again, I still think that this book is going to come down even further. The Ahsoka series is coming out next month. And in my opinion, after that series has come and gone, I bet you start seeing this book sell for closer to where I bought mine for, if not sooner. So stay away from this book, in my opinion, until the time is right. But I think if you could aim for $1,500 to $1,600, that's probably a good near-term target to aim for. Likewise, Heir to the Empire. Now, this was a newsstand edition. I had this in my What to Buy video. It only had one photo, and the photo was like kind of cut off and weird, and I just didn't trust it. I just didn't think, you can't buy a $2,000 book with only one photo. Somebody did, though. Somebody paid $2,000 for it. This, again, is the newsstand. Very tough to get in the newsstand edition. But to me, that's probably not too far off of market value. I would probably aim for $1,800. I have seen a couple of them sell away from eBay. I think it was either Comic Link or My Comic Shop. They were around $1,800. But to me, buying this book from a seller on eBay where there's only one photo that's not a great photo, to me, I wouldn't buy it personally. But someone did. Someone paid $19.99 for it. Likewise, here is a direct edition in a 9.6 grade. That one sold for $300. Now, a direct edition in the 9.8 grade will set you back somewhere between $700 and $900. So it's a big price drop to go from a 9.8 to a 9.6 for the direct edition. So that's a good way to pick up a very, very high grade example of the first appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn, Jorah C'baoth, Mara Jade. If you wanted to get a 9.6, it's very affordable. I mean, I'm not saying it's not cheap. $300 is a lot of money, but it's a lot more affordable than the 9.8 grade, which goes for over double that price. And again, the 9.8 for the newsstand will set you back somewhere around $1,700 to $1,800, maybe $1,900. Next up is one I did have in my What to Buy video, and it did go cheap as I predicted. This is the first appearance of Prince Xizor, as well as the first cameo of Dash Rendar. That's Shadows of the Empire #1 in the direct edition. That one sold for $122. I still think this is a good book to get, especially at current prices. This is one I would target right now. Nobody's talking about Xizor, although he did appear in the Crimson Reign recent Marvel series. So I think that they do have plans for Xizor. He's a pretty nice villain. And why not get his first appearance while it's cheap? $122 for the direct edition in a CGC 9.8 with white pages. That's a good buy. That's a really good buy at $122. Next up, Knights of the Old Republic #9. This is another book that's come way down. During the height, this was going for $1,200 to $1,500. This is the first, I would call it the first cameo appearance of Revan. It's labeled as the first full appearance, but it's really more of a cameo if you ask me. But it's a great cover. This is actually his Jedi Master, apparently, not Revan. But I still love the cover. It's one I got in my collection. This one sold for $620 in an auction on July 10th. That's a pretty good price target to aim for. $600 to $625 is about the going rate for this book. And again, that's like 50% or more less than what this was going for last year. So really good time to pick that one up. This is kind of an interesting one. I don't know anything about this book, but this is Star Wars #1, 2015. So it's a first issue, and this is a really cool kind of cover. Tales of Suspense #39 cover homage. And this is a Comic Pop Collectibles edition. I just love the cover, and apparently the market does too. I hadn't seen this one sell recently, but even in an auction, this one went for $208.50. So Apparently there's a black and white version because this is a color version of it. And pretty cool Boba Fett cover, Star Wars #1 from 2015. Again, I know nothing about any first appearances or anything, but it's a great cover and a cover homage for an older comic. So it's kind of an older look to it. It's kind of a faux old comic. And I've got another one of those coming up here in a little while that's worth a look too, that I think is actually a better buy than this one, even though it's more expensive. But you know, if you're into Boba Fett and you don't have that book, apparently the market says it's pretty valuable. So $208.50 on that one. Kanan #1, the first cameo of the Rebels team. This one is completely flatlined, even though we know that the Rebels team is coming. This one sold in an auction for $145. That's a really good price. Really, really good price. Usually they're going for about $175 right now. So if you can get Kanan 1 for under $175, that's a pretty good buy right now. And I still think it's a good book to have in your collection. Next up, we've got the 1 in 25 Laraka variant for Dr. Aphra's first appearance, which is Darth Vader #3 from 2015. This is one I would love to get in my collection. This one, I actually reached out to the seller. I said, hey, I'd like some more photos. Because if you look in the top left corner on the back, it looks like there's dents on the back of the comic. And he never messaged me back. He said, I'll get some more photos for you. And he never messaged me back. That raised red flags to me, so I stayed away from it. But the market did not. They still paid $12.25 for it. There was another one that sold for $13.45 that looked very, very clean. And this is probably more in line with market, $1,300 to $1,350 for the Laraka 1 in 25 ratio variant for Dr. Aphra's first appearance. So that's a great book. That's one I'm definitely targeting for next year for my own collection. It's expensive, but if you're going to buy an expensive modern book, get the best. Get the ratio variants, and this is definitely one I'd love to get at some point. But this one, again, the seller, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you don't send me more photos when I specifically target this one area on the back of the book, that raises red flags, and it comes across as smelling a little scumbaggy. So no offense to you, but you could have messaged me back and said, hey, yeah, there's a dent on the back of the cover, and then disclosed it to the other buyers. But the fact that he didn't reach back out to me, even though I asked for more photos of it, to me signifies that it probably does have a dent on the back of that cover. And it was enough for me to stay away from it. And he still got a big price for it, but hopefully the buyer's happy with it. Next up is another one. This is a 9.6 for the same grade. This one sold for $600. So again, this is another thing I'm trying to reiterate, is that if you can't afford the 9.8, but you want this book in your collection in a high grade, look at the 9.6s. It goes for less than half of what the 9.8 goes for at $600 for Darth Vader #3. This is another book I'd never really noticed before, but I wanted to point out because even the 9.6 for this book sold for $120. It's a great kind of like recruiting poster variant cover, GameStop exclusive for Star Wars #1. So this is the same book that the Boba Fett book I just talked about, but just a different cover that shows Luke Skywalker on there. And this is "The Force is with you." It just kind of has a feel to a World War II recruiting poster for the Army. So it's a really cool book. Again, I don't know if it'll ever be worth anything 20 years from now. But if you collect there's different ways to collect Star Wars comics. There's collecting them for the aesthetic aspect of it, and just kind of the artwork. And this is a good example of one that would look awesome on your collection wall, and not set your wallet back too much. Or there's investment grade books like the big key issues, Star Wars 1, 42, etc. This one I would classify as an aesthetic kind of like look awesome on your wall type of book. But even the 9.6 sold for $120. But I just wanted to point it out because I had never seen this GameStop exclusive. It was by Greg Horn, who's a fairly well-known artist, and I just love it. I think it's a great looking cover and would make a nice addition to your wall. Next up, we have Darth Vader #6. This is the first appearance of the Grand Inquisitor. This book has gone the way of the dodo. Nobody cares about the Grand Inquisitor anymore. This one sold for $93 in an auction, so now's a good time to pick that up. And this one I bought as a kind of a future speculative investment book, and that's the risk you take when you buy these modern books, is because if the character sucks in live action, which he did, then the book goes nowhere and it goes down. And that's what happened with this book. I think I paid $140 for mine. Now it's selling for $93. So, but I love it. It's a great cover. I still enjoy the cover. I still like having it in my collection. It's a great first appearance for a fairly key character from the Rebels cartoons and things like that. So I still think it's worth having, but now's a good time to get it at $93. $93 is a lot more attractive than when this one was selling for like $500 or $600 after the Grand Inquisitor was teased in the original trailers for the Obi-Wan series. So now you can get it for $93. So it's a really good time to get it. Next up, this is what I was talking about when I talked about another kind of faux older book that would look great in your collection, and it's got some collectability to it too. This is Darth Vader #1 from the 2017 series. So this would be like the volume 2. And this is an homage cover to Uncanny X-Men #145. The funny thing is that this book goes for more than the book that it was an homage to. You can get X-Men 145 in a direct edition in a CGC 9.8 for like $150 to $175. This is a 1:25 ratio variant, and there's something about this cover that really speaks to me. It has all the clone troopers dead. It shows Padme dead, and it's got Vader. You know, he's slaughtered his way back to Naboo. It's kind of like a hypothetical. What would happen if Vader found out that Padme was dead, which he did in the movie, and then he went back to Naboo and slaughtered everybody to get back to her, and he's holding her dead body. And it's like he's holding the saber, contemplating, I did this, and the dark side of the Force did this, and now she's dead, and I'm a ruined person. This is an incredible book, an incredible cover by Mark Brooks. I would love to have this, and there's not many of them on the census. There's like maybe 30 or 40 total in a 9.8 grade. But it's got that kind of faux edges. You know, all the edges are kind of fake historical, fake wear to the book. Kind of like the retro collection, right? So anyway, this is a book that I've wanted for a long time, but they always want like $600 or $700 on eBay. And I'm not paying that for a modern book, unless it's like a La Rocca variant for Dr. Aphra's first appearance. This is a really good buy, though, at $369. This was a really, really good buy, and I would have loved to have bought it, but I'm kind of going after some bigger books right now. But look out for this one, Darth Vader #1, the Brooks variant cover. It's a 1:25, and there's just something about this art. I love the clone helmets in the top left corner. It just kind of looks like an old 1960s Marvel comic. I mean, it's just awesome. Everything about that book is pure fire. And $369 is well below where this book has sold for buy it now situation. So look out for that one. Next up is the High Republic #1. This is the Villanelli variant cover that is like an homage to Clone Wars #1. And this is the trade dress version. That one sold for $310. The Virgin edition sold for $325. Folks, this book was going for like $1,100 or $1,200 at one point. I mean, there's not many of these printed, and it's a Clone Wars homage, and it's got like a ton of first appearances. Now's a really good time to pick these two up if you're looking for either the trade dress or the Virgin edition of High Republic #1, specifically the Villanelli cover. The Villanelli covers. It's a really awesome book, but I don't know if I'd spend that much personally. I mean, clearly the market is saying it's going down in value, but it's an awesome book, and it's very low printed as well. So very, very cool book though, and the price has never been better. Likewise, High Republic Adventures #2, the first appearance of Marchion Ro. This one got up to like $180. Now it's $50. $50. I mean, you're basically trading at case cost right now for the main villain's first full appearance, Marchion Ro, in the High Republic universe. Now, the cover's not great, okay? You know, the cover is Lula Taliasola, who's another Jedi that makes her first appearance in this book. If this book had Marchion Ro on the cover, then it would be really worth getting. But, you know, because it doesn't have him on the cover, then it's kept the price down. But now, I mean, no one cares about this book right now. No one cares about the High Republic universe at all. So if you like the High Republic universe, now's a good time to pick those up. Likewise, High Republic 7. This is the second print, first appearance of Darth Krull, another key villain. And the second print was going for like $180, $170 for a while there. They had a manufacturing error where they had to return or destroy a bunch of these copies. I mean, like 60 or 70% were destroyed. So as a result, there's not a lot of the second prints floating around in a 9.8 grade. And it's got Darth Krull on the cover there, as you can see on the left-hand side. So this book, again, was going for about $170 straight out of the gate, and it's done nothing but go down to case cost. So again, if you like Darth Krall, you can look at that one. There's also one that was done by Mike Mayhew that's got a much better cover with Darth Krall on the cover. I've got that one as well, but this one I don't have. But this, this one's a good cheap option if you want his first appearance, but you don't want to pay triple that for the Mike Mayhew cover variation. Next up, The Mandalorian has also come way down. Mandalorian #1, the 1-in-50 ratio variant. This one sold for $79. $79. This was going for like $150 for a while. Now you can get it for $79. So as I talked about, and I didn't follow my own advice, if you wait 6 to 9 months, all of these new comics, they go cheap, right? And now, right now, no one cares about The Mandalorian because season 3 is come and gone, and it wasn't that great. And now this one's going for $79. Likewise, the 1-in-50 ratio variant for Mandalorian #2, the first full appearance of Grogu. This one sold for $120. And I bought mine at $175, and I said, if y'all just wait for a little while longer, I bet you can get it for even cheaper. And sure enough, now it's going for $120. So that one sold for $120. This one sold for $132. So again, I didn't listen to my own advice. And with these new comics, if there's one you particularly like in a 9.8, just wait. Wait 6 to 9 months, and everyone else has moved on, and you can pick them up cheap. And those are great prices for those books. And I would specifically get the 1-in-50 ratio variants for #1 and #2 if you like The Mandalorian like I do. I've got both of those books, but I paid more because I was impatient. And, again, it was like $30 or $40 difference, so I don't particularly care that much. But if you're on a budget and you want to get a CGC 9.8 for those 2 books, now's a good time to do it. So anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.